Welcome, everybody, to an honest review of the Toyota A86 Sprinter Trueno GT Apex 16-valve twin-cam in Forza Horizon 4. We waited like 2 years for this thing. And yes, I will be doing a video on the Lexus LFA if you guys are wondering. But that's not the point, and that's not what we're here for today. This thing has a special place in my heart. Not just because of the anime, but because, well, I mean, it's just a nice car. As horrendously retarded as that sounds to an outsider who thinks, oh, it's just a 1980s Corolla, it can't possibly be anything special. To that I say, have you ever even looked at it? Have you looked at everything it did back in the 80s and 90s? And what it meant to Toyota as a company at the time? Not just the company in general, like the people as well. Especially for several in Japan that are extremely noteworthy. I'll only be mentioning really one of those people in this video. I don't have enough research finished on those other beings to honestly give what their opinions were in general, or what they actually did think of the car. I've only heard rumor, I've only seen some stuff on them. The basic premise of it is this car is near, dear, and special to a lot of people. It's nice to drift. First, I will give some engine light recommendations. Talk about overall performance of the car. And then we will go over historical significance in the form of what racing did it take part in, and other notes. So, first off, these things in Japan, known as the A86, came standard with a 4.8G naturally aspirated 4-cylinder carbureted engine, producing between 110 and 150 horsepower, with the just run-of-the-mill standard ones running about 128. As you can tell, mine's been tuned. Now, a lot of the time, that doesn't seem like a lot, especially in a game like Forza Horizon, where everybody has crazy horsepower, and their launch and acceleration is often better than what you normally expect. We're going through the festival, you're going to hear a lot of noise. But this car performs extremely well for something so small. Now, right now I'm running my mid-spec tune on the car. It's basically the same except for horsepower as my other tunes currently. And right now it's running at 203 horsepower at 178 foot-pound torque. And that's pretty respectable. Car handles nice, it's comfortable here, and it doesn't seem to have any particular issues running at these speeds. This is a stock transmission vehicle. I have not tuned a 6-speed, and you can see it runs pretty nice. It turns pretty good. In fact, this thing has one of the best A-class handlings I've seen, other than the obvious overpowered cars in the game, like Bone Shaker, which a lot of people know is a pretty overpowered Hot Wheels car for A-class ranked racing. I don't do ranked racing. Not that often. I would like to occasionally. but that's not in the books for today. A lot of people in the past may have swapped in the 2-liter VVT inline 4 engine swap option, just that way they don't have to deal with a 4AG motor. You know, more horsepower, right? A lot of people may have just done that because it was the closest thing that sounded in-game to Takami's racing engine in the anime of Initial D. Seasons 4 and 5 in specific. His engine revved to 11, and it sounded pretty close to what the 2-liter VVT sounded like in several Forza games. Well, there's not much point in doing that for sound prospect anymore, because the engine just doesn't sound like it anymore, unless you're first person, and even then you can still hear the obvious change when it gets into the higher RPM. Should also note that the engine swap in general, that would be putting a Honda Civic engine in a Toyota 86, and now the problem with that is the Honda Civic is notably the Toyota A86's main rival since it came out. Long-standing rivalry in several motorsport genres that these cars were featured in. Off the top of my head, Rallycross, GT racing. There's of course the other forms of Hachiroku racing series, including lower tier Formula Drift at the time, and even in street racing, the underground street racing world of Japan, these cars duked it out quite often because they were cheap, they were lightweight, and they made respectable horsepower for their class without being too difficult to tune for more. This, of course, meant that the cars were particularly popular in other countries as well. I myself, living in America, can vouch for the Civic's popularity over here. And even though it wasn't exactly an 8.6 when it came to the US, it was rebranded as the Corolla, with a different chassis code for the United States, and it made less horsepower, with weird American spec bumpers I did not exactly agree with. Midway through 1985 and 1986, there was a change to the car, being headlight and taillight configuration. I think it was just mainly taillight for the Trueno variant, which is the one we're driving. There was other versions, like the Levin, which had flushed headlights and a completely different taillight pattern. Cars look very similar because they are basically the exact same car, just slightly different, although what is notable is that I'm pretty sure the Levin was about an inch taller. Because of the headlight change, they had to shift parts of the A and B pillars to match the hood rearrangement, and that's interesting going on there. Anyway, yeah, this is one of my favorite cars. I like to drive it in pretty much any racing game the car exists in. And Horizon 4, it is a very, very welcome addition. It drives very nice. I have another tune with about 258 horsepower, 211 foot-pound torque. Does fantastic with that tune. I'm going to go ahead and let slip. The Spectre Supra is not a one-off just for me. I will be, hopefully, giving those out to select players who are either willing to pay actual cash or just simply interested in the car. But anyway, I have a friend with a Spectre Supra model that I built for them. And this thing with my higher horsepower tune, 4AG, not the 2-liter VVT, it out-accelerated him up to 5th gear until I topped out, or started to anyway, and then he out-accelerated me. Then that's notable because the Spectre Supra is a 600 horsepower all-wheel drive. And This was, at the time, a 258 horsepower rear-wheel drive. Car right now weighs 1,670 pounds. The car weighed 1,667 at the time the race was going on, and it handled with him. Now, he has Forza Aero and 8.2 stated handling. I have no Forza Aero and 7.0 stated handling. You can see where I'm going with this. This car refuses to reach top of A-class unless you fully spec the motor out with camshaft. Supposing you don't do the camshaft and just get Forza Aero, you could have potentially a surprisingly overpowered car for A-class. Running a bit long. I'll have to make a part 2. Till then, see you guys later. Bye.